Now, Errol Spence Jr. took to social media this past Thursday, where he basically said that he's heading to the fight and he wants the winner between Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora. We know the former unified welterweight champion Errol Spence hasn't fought since his loss to Terrence Crawford last July, and there's been speculation about when he will return to the ring. We know Errol Spence Jr. is 33 years old right now, and he's decided that he want to get in the ring with the winner of Tszyu and Sebastian Fundora. Now, Fundora was basically asked about it, okay, his reaction, and he's basically saying that he's willing to fight whoever is paying the most money between Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford. So it looks like Tszyu is trying to get the bag, and I want y'all to let me know down in the comment section how you feel about Errol Spence Jr. coming out after this past loss that he had with Terrence Crawford. Now he wants to get in there with the winner of this fight. Do you guys think it's a bit too early for Errol Spence to try to get in there with, you know, these level of competition? Do you think Errol Spence should just try to go right after the Crawford fight? I've kind of been out the game for a while. I know there's a lot of news that took place. I know Errol Spence is probably not with Derrick James no more. There's been a whole bunch of stuff going on with that, and we're going to start to get back in here and make some more videos and talk about it. So y'all let me know right now. I'm going to get into it. Y'all stay tuned. So the first thing I thought about when I heard this situation was I think the Errol Spence Jr. versus Tszyu fight can be extremely entertaining. Now that is if Tszyu is able to get past, you know, Fundora, which I think is a pretty good fighter as well. We know he's basically, you know, come off a knockout. I think he's coming off a knockout loss. So who knows how he's going to react in this particular fight. Styles make fights. We know Fundora is extremely tall. But he does really like to fight on the inside. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing for him in this fight, because we know Tszyu is a very strong fighter. Okay, he got a lot of power. He picks his shots pretty well. Pretty skilled on the inside. So I think, you know, first of all, you know, Tszyu definitely got to get past Fundora, which I think a lot of people think he will. But if not, you know what I'm saying, it is what it is on that. But I think if he was to get past him, you know, if Errol Spence Jr. was to get that type of a fight with the winner, he says he's going to be in the building, hopefully. So we'll see how that works. We don't know if maybe Terrence Crawford probably show up as well. Who knows what's going on with that? I know I heard a lot of news about Crawford potentially, you know, rumored to be possibly fighting Chris Eubank Jr. So who knows what's up with that? Whether or not Terrence Crawford to be in the building. Errol Spence said he's trying to pull up and see what's good with the winner. But in my personal opinion, I like the fact that Errol Spence is back out here calling guys out. Okay, he took a tremendous loss on a very grand stage, probably his biggest stage of his career, right? Against a guy who he's been tied to for the last few years. And, you know, so the fact that he's out here, you know, back out here calling guys out again, I think is a good sign for boxing. I think it's a good sign for Errol Spence fans and boxing fans in general. You know what I'm saying? So I think that type of fight, for me, I think is entertaining, the way the styles match up. I think both Errol Spence and Tszyu, they both have a very inside, come forward type of a fighting style. So I think it could make for some fireworks if I'm not mistaken. You know, Errol Spence will be moving up to 154 pounds. I think this will be his first time moving up in weight professionally, because if I'm not mistaken, I think he did start off at that weight class, but his whole professional career, he's pretty much been at 147. So I think it'll be his first time. We'll have to see what he looks like at that weight class, how much bigger and stronger would he come in, how much healthier would he look. But a guy like Tszyu, I think he's a tough fight for anybody. Okay, we saw what he did in his last 3 or 4 fights. Looked tremendous. You know what I'm saying? I think he's got 2 knockouts in the last 3 fights, and another unanimous decision. So man, the way this guy fights is he's a pretty rough guy. He's a pretty tough guy. Got a lot of power, you know what I'm saying? So I think, you know, for Errol Spence coming off such a tough loss, knockout loss to Terrence Crawford, I would imagine he has to be extremely careful versus a guy like Tszyu, because, you know, that's the last thing you want to do coming off of a big loss like that without getting any tune-ups and getting there with a guy who not particularly a huge name. I mean, we know he's been making a lot of noise for himself lately, but he hasn't over the last, 5, 6, 7 years, been a huge name at that weight class. Okay, so he's been working his way up, and now it looks like he's going to be able to get probably a big fight after the Fundora fight if he can come out with the win. But for Errol Spence Jr. to come back after such a big loss and get in there with a guy like Tszyu, and it don't go well for him, a lot of people could start to, wonder, is Errol Spence Jr. done? Like, he would have to come in here, move up this weight, move up to 154 and show the world that he's still, the great Errol Spence Jr. and he can still get in here and, look extremely good against tough opposition. You know what I'm saying? I think that would make a big statement in his quest to get a rematch with Terrence Crawford. And I think that'll be extremely important, for him to really put on a good performance, man, because like, you got to remember, a lot of times in boxing, people have short-term memory. Okay. So, there's a lot of fighters that was looked at as super great and then they lost. And if they was to get back in the ring and basically, win against a couple of guys here and there, not all the time is your career over when you catch some L's. Okay, you can come back and start whooping guys again, and people will kind of start to forget about, the losses that you took or whatever, man. We see that all over the sport of boxing. So I think if Errol Spence can get in there with somebody, whether it be the winner of this fight, whether it be a tune-up, whether it be, guys like, I don't know, who else, is available at this particular time. But if he was to get in there with somebody decent and make a good name for himself and put up a good performance after that loss to Terrence Crawford, I think that'd be extremely important for Errol Spence. Confidence. I think it'll get his fans back moving again. It'll just give a big spark to the weight class and to the sport of boxing in general. So that's just my thoughts on that. I'll be interested to see this fight tomorrow night, which is, I think, a Saturday night, is the Tszyu and Fundora fight. So it's going to be interesting to see how that fight plays out. If Fundora can come away with the win, how would that fight play out if Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford was to get that fight? I'm not necessarily sure if Terrence Crawford is, trying to move up to 154 at this point in time, because he did say he was trying to fight Errol at 147 again if they was to do it. But Errol ain't staying there. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be moving up. So it'll be real interesting to see if Fundora was to win this fight tomorrow night, and then Errol Spence Jr. calls out the winner, and he gets up there, and that height difference would be a big deal for Errol Spence. But like I said before, Fundora is not typically the type of guy that'll fight real tall. Okay, he really does fight on the inside from time to time. He doesn't use his height and reach as an advantage to keep guys back. So he'll probably get in there and slug it out with Errol Spence, which could potentially be hazardous. You know what I'm saying? Especially if Errol Spence is moving up in weight and is looking different, starting to feel a little bit stronger and not as drained as he was at the earlier weight class. So that'll be interesting to see how that'll play out, man. But I want y'all to let me know how y'all feel down in the comment section. This your boy Get a Mic. I'm trying to get back in here and do some videos again and try to get this thing moving. Really appreciate everybody's patience, man. Been going through a lot. Y'all know how we do. Much love, peace, blessings to everybody checking into the video, and I'll be back with some more. Peace.